Hey everybody, thought I'd give a little tour of our land since it's a balmy 60-degree day in the middle of January. And most people haven't been able to see it because it's either been nighttime or raining or who else knows what's going on. But yeah, let's take a look. So yeah, hopefully the audio's alright. It's pretty windy today, but this part of the yard behind the house, there's not a lot going on, just grass on a little kind of elevated courtyard there around the back of the house. A few neighbors. And then back there I have like a dump zone with compost, debris, yard cleanup, all that. And then back here, this is like the leach field for our septic system, which is why it's clear and grass. As you can see behind it, it's kind of a dense thicket of what I think was a woodlot. The trees are pretty organized, but it's been uncared for a long time, so it looks like a dense, evil thicket, but we'll get to that eventually. Yeah, coming back around. Not too much in the side yard. I have my one raised bed there, you can probably see. Some seeds stratifying over the winter, some strawberries, but that's about it so far for perennial vegetable crops. You can see I have a little weeping hemlock right there that no longer has leaves because the deer are evil. But we'll figure out how to deal with them as the years go by. And then this you can kind of see is just it's a bit of a mess. Hasn't been taken care of, but theoretically the yard could just continue into these woods here. Hasn't been maintained. They had electric fences to keep livestock out of this area. I think they had goats. I don't really like goats, but we'll figure it out. You can kind of see this cedar post here has some old electric fence equipment on it. And here's another one. So they're clearly raising something. Who knows what. And down this path, kind of still going along the street. This is where the water and electric line and internet line run from our house to our little studio coming up around here. My husband wants to teach piano out of it, but probably needs another year before we get it into good shape. Then we have a barn. Has some animal stalls in the lower level, but again, they're really only big enough for goats. I don't think you could overwinter even a pig in it. It's really not built for that. And then the top level has just some of our tools. Needs a little work, but we're glad to have it. Better than nothing. And then painting back into the little woodsy area, we have this stream. It's really not natural. It's fed by a storm drain on the street. The town put it in, I assume, when they built the road. But it's cute. It's nice to have. Might build a bridge over it sometime. There's actually an interesting little a natural bridge composed of these tree roots. It might be nice to try and make them a feature, but they're kind of a tripping hazard. I wouldn't want people to actually regularly be walking on them. But someday I might use that water coming out of this creek to irrigate, more like for farming than yard irrigation. And there's just a little field behind the studio. I think there's a septic system for the studio building here because the studio has a bathroom and it's not attached to the septic for our house. But who knows? It's not on any plans, so we'll have to figure it out. And then, we have like a frost-free stanchion. Nice to have. Could be a little more conveniently located, but better to have it than not, right? And then here, this has been my project for many months. This was just an overgrown field. Everything was 4 feet high, totally unusable. And we still have a lot of tree of heaven here that I need to take out sometime. Unfortunately, the wood's it's not really good for much. I'm not sure what to do with it. Could maybe make some posts, but they rot fast. Highly invasive. You can just see like where the older trees are, and every year they just send out a new layer out by the roots. Gets smaller and smaller. I'll have to do a dedicated mowing job. But yeah, out here is where I'd like to farm. I think what I have clear is probably close to an acre. When I remove some of these like sassafras, weed trees, and pines, it'll probably be closer to 2 acres over here. But yeah, you can see at the bottom of the hill, that's what the whole field looked like. Just this awful, scrubby goldenrod, which is nice, but a lot of thistly, bittersweet, all kinds of stuff that are quite awful. And at some point I'll clean this stuff out too, at least up until where the wetlands begin, and then that stuff is protected and I'm not supposed to do anything to it, and I don't intend to. The wetlands are the reason this property is as big as it is, otherwise it would have been sold off into bits and pieces. So I've kind of been working a little trail here through these trees, but still a little hectic. You can see a little shack over there. Neighbors have firewood near the property line. And here, also on the street, well, kind of along the street, we have another little creek, you could call it, also fed by a storm drain, so it's not natural. And this one too, I might build a little diversion so I can take water from it when I want to. You know, it flows. I'm surprised it's flowing now. It hasn't rained for a while. It's probably snow melt. Tomorrow it'll be raining, and I think we'll end up with a pretty good flow through it. And so those 2 creeks are what feed the wetlands on the property. I'm not sure how wet they'll stay if I divert the creeks at all, but because they're man-made and they're not protected, we do have the ability to divert them. But I think I'll probably just make like a small irrigation pond and then use that to just fill it occasionally from the creeks and then use it for irrigation. So, getting into the woods, as you can see, it's a bit of a challenge here. We have a lot of very nasty, thorny things. Let me see, how do I want to do this? Not really wearing the right pants for it. Oh, maybe I just go for it. Come through here a little bit, get a little closer to the edge of the property, see what we can do. I should have worn some gloves, but I'll figure it out. Yeah, it doesn't look too inviting, does it? I wouldn't mind the thorns so much, but the roses love to trip you, which is the worst. I don't know if you can get a good look. It's pretty wet forest. It's just fun. It means you can grow a little bit more. Some native azaleas would be nice. I think I'll have to divert deer with some netting to make them less inclined to come this way. Because as long as they exist, they pretty much strip everything. Trying to walk along this downed log keeps me up and out of the mess a little bit. Not so much though. It was easier when there was snow, honestly, because you could avoid a lot of the nasties. Give me one sec. I need both hands to get through this. Okay, a little hop and a skip, and we're in a more clear area. There's the log I was just standing on. You can kind of see it's very scrubby, very thorny. Unfortunately, the deer eat everything but what you want them to, right? So I don't know if you can make it out in the distance. We'll come closer. There's like a pink tag on a branch. That should be the edge of some of the wetlands in the property. You can see it's not really flowing here now, but this little area is kind of like a creek as well. This one only really flows when it's really raining, but you can kind of see the depression and it's pretty moist. And so there's some woods to the left there that aren't ours. There's like a kind of a trail, open green space the town put in that doesn't get maintained, so no one uses it, but it's there. But it's nice. It means there'll never be another house right up against our property. So yeah, here's that tag for the wetlands. So they're pretty far in, honestly, from where we were, but you have to be like 50 or 100 feet, I think, away from them before you can start altering the land freely. You can still make some alterations, like you can run livestock through and things like that, clean out a lot of these invasives, but you're not supposed to be building things. You can't build houses, stuff like that, which is good. You gotta protect the important parts of nature. Wetlands are very critical to a lot of species. So there's another tree right there with a pink tag. So you can kind of see from there back to that bush. That's like an edge of the wetland. And it kind of continues. There's like a stone wall in the background, which used to be the property line at once in its history. But I don't know if you can see here, there's this concrete marker. I want to put some stakes by all of them so they're easier to find. Yeah, so as far as we know, this is one edge of our property, and everything past it is the open green space that I was talking about earlier. But yeah. Oh yeah, you can see there's a good amount of water over here just standing. So yeah, this stuff is definitely wetlands. And honestly, I'm amazed. You can kind of see there's a house through there. I'm amazed they were able to clear the land and build a lawn that close to the wetland. Like, clearly parts of it are not 100 feet back. But sometimes the town and state can be a little lenient on those things if they don't think it poses significant risk. Oh, I think this pine isn't long for this world. I mean, it's certainly got years left in it, but these big ones, they do come down. There are a few I want to chop up. They're not the best for firewood, but they burn fast and hot, which can be good for starting a fire. And they're certainly fine for burning outdoor firewood. So yeah, you can kind of see that house. The little green space trail is between them and us. And then our property just continues that way till we hit the next street. Still probably a few hundred feet away. Some more little running water. The creeks really do kind of split and go all over the place, which is fine. In the spring, this area is very nice, covered in ferns. And you can kind of see some of the worse thorny, thatchy stuff doesn't grow back here. The shade is a lot deeper. And it's a lot wetter, which some of them enjoy and some of them don't. Yeah, I'd really enjoy kind of seeding and planting some natives throughout here. I've already bought some seeds. But, like trilliums, lots of native ephemeral flowers. Of course, the deer will probably get a lot of them, but who knows. Now we have some more tags. It's kind of hard to see because it's so bright, but there's a little bit of blue right there. And then there's another one somewhere here. They mark, I think, some other aspect of the wetland. They're not the borders, obviously, because we're dead in the middle of it. They might be related to the creeks. It's hard to know what's what. They aren't really labeled well. I could call the conservation commissioner. Yeah, it's hard to say. There's like a number. I think they were just for mapping. Maybe where the two creeks run on the property. Because creeks are protected a little differently. Yeah, we're kind of walking right in it right now. Trying to stay on the rocks. A lot of nice evergreen moss. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent flow for, not so rainy day, and there's really no snow on the ground to even be melting, so I really don't know where it's coming from. Maybe ground thaw. Who knows? Yeah. Oh yeah, there's another blue one. Probably hard for you guys to see. They really just seem to follow the creeks. I think that's what they're for. Oof. Very muddy. You can probably hear that. Yeah, you can kind of see there's a mound out there to kind of push land out of the way to make a trail to the green space. I'm kind of getting towards the edge of the property. I won't go all the way because the street's nothing to look at, but come back around the other property line. And there's a lot of stone walls through the property, but they don't correlate with lot lines. I'm not totally sure what purpose they serve. There was some pasture, like the woodlot we saw at the beginning. You can see the rocks form a nice even rectangle, but it's nowhere near big enough to be a lot. Pretty confident it was pasture. Yeah, I want to ask what these different ribbons mean for the Conservation Commission. Like this orange one around this really beautiful big pine. But at the same time, I don't really want to be on the Conservation Commission's radar. I certainly do my best to respect the wetlands and the land itself, but sometimes the Conservation Commission doesn't trust that you're on their side. So I'll do right, and they don't have to be any wiser. Yeah, keep going this way. You can kind of see our land kind of slopes and hits kind of a wall, an intersection in the street, and then the water runs under to another wetland property that's over the street. There you can see it's like a T intersection. Yeah, and then our property just runs along it pretty much until you get to the next house down the street, which is probably a few hundred feet at least this way. Yeah, there's more blue ribbons. This is kind of where the creek comes together. All the different bits and branches and sources come to this main little stream that then goes under the road there and comes out a little over there on another property that's protected wetlands, so it isn't developed. Apparently the family that owned this property originally owned hundreds of acres, all these houses in the suburban development. The land came from them. And this property is the property they retired to. So it stayed in their hands for a while. And because of all this wetland, they weren't able to break it up and sell it off like a lot of the other land. There's kind of more woods along the street. We'll come back in a little. Not too much to look at over there. There's some, it's not even plywood, it's like veneer wood someone stacked up there before we ever bought the house. Not a huge deal, but have to deal with it sometime, right? So we'll come back around. We were over there earlier. Here's another low spot that just kind of sits with water. I'm sure I could find some nice native plants that would really enjoy it. The deer don't come through this part as often, though. nothing is truly ever safe, right? So then there's this berm, big old berm. I don't think it's natural at all. It just doesn't make sense. I assume they, long time ago, were, moving land around, pushing it out, leveling. And this is just kind of where they dumped the excess. But it's a nice vantage point, and because it's so tall, it's not wetland. So might put, a little bit of, a couple benches or a little furniture out here. It's very nice, cool in the summer. There's not too much growing on it either, in terms of trees. So here we come back. This is the backside of that unmanaged woodlot that we originally looked at towards the beginning of the video. And so here you can kind of see the stone wall I was talking about. It runs up this way, a little bit of a diagonal. And then there's another one on the other side of these pines that runs parallel. And then one, you can kind of see a big one back there that runs across and connects them. So I think this was originally a pasture, but they stopped raising livestock a long, long time ago. So this field, you can kind of see, I don't mow it. It's mostly goldenrod, and it's within wetland setbacks, but it's not wetlands itself. So I could mow it, but they wouldn't want me to build anything. And you can see this orange tag is delineating the wetland setback. And there's another one right there. And so that's why the woodlot ends along that line, because they weren't allowed to plant a woodlot into wetland setback. Now we come to the evil forest. It's so dark and dense. Kind of cool though, but deflated basketball. Didn't notice that when there was snow. It's cool. It's hard to piece out the organization of the woodlot, but you can kind of see it. Oh, you got a pheasant. It's not gonna cooperate, I'm sure. Yeah, there's a hunting club not too far away, and unfortunately the pheasants sometimes escape, and I'm not going to be able to catch him. Thankfully we've had a very, very mild winter. Oh, he already ran away. Don't know which way he went. Yeah, we see them now and then. But anyway, back to the woodlot. So you can kind of see the organization of the original woodlot here. See this big tree, then there's another big tree. Then there's a gap, one probably died, but then there's another big tree, another big tree. All the really old trees are in a grid, loosely. A few have kind of bit the dust. And then all the rest of them are just fill-ins that have seeded over the years. Although you notice there really aren't any shorter than 10 feet anymore because the canopy is too closed and dense. But all this land is totally free and clear of the wetlands and the setbacks. So I very much intend to clear it over the years, because this pine forest is just a monocrop. It's not helping any nature. Coyotes come through a lot. Some deer too. But I don't know if I'll plan on farming it or maybe just gardens. My husband would prefer that. He's very supportive of the farming, but he also likes flowers. And to him, farms aren't super duper pretty. There's some spots here where I think they cleared out the woods a little to get trucks through. You can see there's like some cut stumps, these big gouges in the land. It was probably to get through here because they built a house back there after they sold off land, and the road it's on didn't exist before they sold off the land. So it was probably easier to bring trucks through these woods than it was to go through some other undeveloped forest that hadn't ever had a road before. Yeah, you can see there's cut stumps all along this little path. Very dark, especially now that the sun decided to vanish. It's kind of cool though, and certainly we'll be able to enjoy it for many years because I am not going to get around to cleaning any of this out anytime soon. That big 2-acre field we came to earlier is going to be my first farming endeavor, first land I really want to develop. And you can see we're kind of coming back, but out here the canopy's not as thick, so a lot of little trees have really sprung up over the years. It's very accosting, but it's not too bad. And then we're back here. This is the leach field again by the house. So yeah, that's kind of the circuit of the edge of the property. Some of this I want to clean out too. This is all outside wetlands. Could be nice, have clearer views. You know, just run the brush mower over everything every now and then. I guess I'll take a little bit back of a loop just to go to where we might build some trails through the middle in the future. Kind of along the woodlot there is a somewhat cleared area. I'm sure it was for access. So yeah, that's the farm field way out there. Here's part of the woodlot again. So we've started making a trail through here. You can see our hodgepodge little branch edges. Go down there in a sec. You can kind of see they have these gates, posts. They definitely ran livestock through here, I think before they ever sold land off, and this woodlot was still a pasture. And I know I'm gonna sound crazy saying it, but you can kind of see along the woodlot, it's relatively clear. You know, these are all branches and trees that are less than an inch in diameter. It used to be clear, the perimeter along the edge of the woodlot, so I'll probably clear it out again in the near future to give better access to the back of the lot, and so people can, you know, walk the land with us. They don't have to run through all these thorns and roses like I am right now. Yeah, my husband and I came through, cleaned up a lot through here to make a very minimal path. You can see the previous owners, you know, weren't super respectful of the land. There's a lot of junk, wire fences, stuff they really didn't need to leave laying around. We also trip on some wires now and then because they were definitely trying to corral some small livestock. Still think it's goats, but no expert. Yeah, so this is as far as we've taken the trail. You can kind of see we're behind the studio and the barn in the woods a little. Clears up in some spots. You have these nice granite boulders. Might turn this one into a bench or something. Not carve it or anything, but put some seats on it. And this big guy is the rock it came off of. And interestingly, it was definitely split, and I don't know why. You can see the little notches in it where they were like running a line to crack. Maybe way, way long ago, people were harvesting granite out of here. There are a lot of boulders. This is a spice bush right here, and you can tell the deer don't really care for it, but it does smell quite lovely. This is about as far as we've come. I have to decide where the paths go next. Out into the middle of the woods, maybe along the woodlot. Probably both. I'd say these boulders make a good fork. And one path could go along the woodlot there, and the other one can run off into the woods somewhere else. But yeah, that's the most of it. There is one last thing I think it'd be interesting to show you guys. Coming up back to the lawn along the creek. The first creek we saw. Oh, it's nice. It was definitely built. You can see it comes out from under the land. and is lined with fieldstone. Carved its own path from there. That's why it's not protected, because it was man-made. But once it escapes its man-made area, it does become protected again. Although we'll see, because I am allowed to divert the man-made sections. And if I divert them, it'd be interesting to see how much stays wet and how the topography changes a little. Because I certainly would love some free irrigation water for growing crops. Although we're on well water, so honestly all the water's free. But yeah, our property is the oldest one in the whole neighborhood, though our house isn't original. And there is no like colonial era building. But up here by the street, we have this mound, and then eventually it comes to a big rock-lined pit that I'll come around to look at. And my husband thinks this was the original site of a house, and I'm inclined to agree with him. Come along this area, it's easier access. Because we can't figure out why else someone would have dug a giant pit full of rocks, but who knows? It's their neighbors across the street. Horses. It's a very horsey kind of town. So yeah, you come here, and there's this kind of rectangular pit lined with rocks of varying sizes. You know, and it's close to the road. So I think it may have been some colonial era building once upon a time that just isn't with us anymore. Cool bit of history. Don't know what I'll do with it. You know, it could make a good compost spot since the farm will be over here. But it could also be a nice pond someday, irrigation pond. It's at the top of the property, but it's still low enough that I could divert water into it. And it's already a giant pit, so I don't have to dig one. But we'll see. I'm definitely getting ahead of myself. But yeah, you can kind of see this big grove in front of me, all tree of heaven. I have quite an endeavor ahead of me getting rid of it. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole property. Definitely an undertaking, but that's why we bought it. We're definitely potential people. We like to see all the things we can do, whether or not we ever actually get around to doing them. But we're still young. We got the energy for it. And you know, it's nice to be a little more in nature. I grew up more in the city. My husband grew up more in the city. Like to grow some of our own food. Not all of it. I'm not going to grow grains. I'm not going to grow rice, but vegetables for sure. Like to have some ducks, maybe other poultry, but I like duck meat, I like duck eggs, and they're more expensive and harder to get, so might as well go with them. Pigs, maybe. If I don't slaughter them, maybe. If I have to slaughter them, that's a whole operation. And then what else? I'll get a dog someday. Help out. Yeah. It's a lot of land. Could definitely feed just the two of us, and then some. Maybe we'll start up a little community farm. There are a few in town. Some of them have gone out even just in the 6 months we've been here, you know, retiring, old age. So, let's see. A lot ahead of us. Yeah. Thanks for coming along. Hope you liked the tour. I'm sure I'll be making more videos as we go along, maybe including my husband, because he's a little more meticulous than I am. Yeah. There's the house, side of it at least. Need to fix that old removed hot water heater that's still got pipes and mismatched roofing. The house is a whole other thing. I'll definitely make some videos fixing up that. Painted a lot, but bathrooms need work. The kitchen needs work. totally livable. And I mean, this kitchen's only 40 years old and our last one was 70 years old, so I'll take it. But let me see if I can turn you around. But yeah, this like living room, kitchen, dining room combo, we call it a great room. It was definitely the selling point for us. You can see the sunlight coming through the clear-story window up top, hitting the back wall. I think my husband counted and I have like 67 plants in there. So, yeah, it's like kind of 70s modern, rustic modern. Definitely my type.